What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Tuesday, July 25th of 2023? David, it's weird. It's a Tuesday.
Hi. Yeah, it's a little weird. It's not too bad, though. It's just one day earlier.
Yeah, it is one day earlier. It's not too bad, but it's just we're so used to recording on Wednesdays. But, this week we actually have a good week. It's not just going to be me and you. But Before we get into all that, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Find us on the socials at the Alex Cuesta Show. And like I mentioned, in the last few weeks, David and I have flown solo. It's been fun. We got to talk about a lot of cool stuff, mentioned a bunch of fun things. But Dave, we actually have a guest this week, and it's someone that we've been working a lockdown, and it's been difficult at times. But when you hear what this guy does, I honestly don't give a shit that it's taken this long to get him on. He's Alex Rosen. He's an independent journalist and does Predator Poachers Live. Go on his Rumble there and go look it up, and we'll let him talk about it. But what's going on, Alex?
How's it going, y'all? Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. So I want to jump right into it. So Predator Poachers, what is it? What do you do?
So what we do is we're a group of mostly 23-year-olds who travel the country catching online predators. And how we do that is we pose as minors online on wherever, and people message us from all over the country. So we go to any corner of the country and, sometimes Canada to go get these people. And over the course of 4 years, we've amassed arrests in 43 different states and have convictions so far, 25 of them. And that's, of course, going to grow more, So
that's absolutely fantastic. So what made you guys start this? Are you guys just a group of friends that decided like, fuck these pedophiles, or like what made you start doing this and when did it start?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be a police officer. So I'm only 23 now. And luckily, if this is going to be on Spotify, they can't see how old I look for 23. So that's probably doing them a favor. But, I am only 23. So I started doing this when I was 19. I've always wanted to be a police officer, and I couldn't do that at 19. So I got into these videos online, like never growing up. I didn't know any pedophiles, which is a good thing, I guess, for me as a kid. Yeah. But, so a passion for catching pedophiles wasn't initially there. It was more of, I just want to catch bad guys. That's always what I've wanted to do. But, seeing these Predator videos online, like the Chris Hansen Anxiety War, Justin Payne, Pop Squad, whatever, just seeing that stuff, it's like, no way there's this many of these people. It's sensationalized. I don't believe it because, I had a pretty PG childhood. Yep. So I threw up a profile of a 15-year-old boy on Grindr just out of curiosity. And 30 minutes later, somebody who works in the Houston Medical Center wants to meet up for sex. And I'm freaking baffled. So, that sparked something. And then a few catches later, I start to realize how big of a problem this is. And then, we start like in 2020, we start posing as even younger. And, you can catch anybody in Houston posing as a 15-year-old. That's where I live, Houston, Texas. But, when you start posing as like an 8-year-old, as like a 9-year-old, it kind of gets to a point where like, oh, hold up. Like, because if you're posing as like a 15-year-old, you're kind of going after, you're getting pedophiles, of course, but you're also looping in the I'm horny and lonely at 3 a.m. crowd. Mm-hmm. But when you're posing as a 9-year-old, there's no horny and lonely at 3 a.m. That's even a remote excuse for this.
Yeah.
So we've definitely dilated the people that are going after the decoy, and these people are sick. Tons of sex offenders, tons of people with multiple victims, and a lot of child porn traders, and that's who we've been targeting ever since.
Now, like a lot of the, our culture, especially you mentioned wanting to be a cop. I did a few cop tests myself. Like it is a great, job to have if you're in the right place. But, we've always talked, like a lot of people, like we like Batman, but for the most part, vigilantism isn't something that we like in this country. We're kind of, let the cops do their job, get out of their way. But I feel like you guys are doing it in the absolutely right way because you're not violent. You don't sit there and you're not like busting in doors. You're not Pizzagating. You're not kicking in doors and trying to do shit like that.
Right.
You are, for lack of a better term, catfishing and entrapping these people. And I've watched a bunch of your videos, and the beauty with you is you just kind of get them talking and you have the cops on the way already because you know what's like going on. And like, as long as you can get these dudes talking and the cops get there, like it looks like you have a pretty high success rate. What is the challenge in, when you go to actually do this bust and like kind of the timing of it? Like, is there an art to it that you've discovered after trying it so many times? For lack of a better term, art. It's a terrible term right now in this situation.
Yeah. Well, gosh, it's a lot of planning. I mean, it's a lot of stuff on the back end. I mean, we're at a point now where we have, including camera guys and including camera guys, not myself, but there's 10 people now that, we're kind of paying to help us out. And it takes a lot of coordination. It takes, hey, when's your guy doing this? Because, it's 8:43 here right now. At 2 a.m., we're going to leave to go to Oklahoma. So it's a lot of timing because we got, say, 30 pedophiles to go catch in 2 weeks. We're not going to get 30 of them, but that's just who's on the list.
Yeah.
And we have the time, like, okay, tell this guy tomorrow, but then tell this guy the next day. So it's a lot of planning like that. And the confrontation, I think, is the it's the part that we all want, of course, and the part that people like seeing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the confrontation, I mean, I think the initial approach is everything, because I'm on the bigger side for sure. So when they see that, I'm just shaking their hands, giggling with them, like the whole point is to just have a conversation about it and hope they admit to some things. And it seems like a lot of the times they do. So that definitely helps the cops because the cops definitely care about those videos. Like, you can't just say you're a sick fuck over and over and over again.
Yep.
And the cops absolutely look for those confessions. Sometimes, some jurisdictions, all the cops need is the messages, and others are like, okay, where's the video of them saying this? And it does matter for sure.
And I was just going to ask about that in terms of the cops. Like, do you talk to these jurisdictions before you go do something and be like, what exactly is going to help you? Like, do you have like an idea whenever you're entering into this? Like, are you working closely with the police precincts that you're entering into in order to do this? And have you been told by some police precincts, like, no, stay out, don't do this, we don't want you involved?
Yeah. So depends on the jurisdiction for that too. So, for example, we're in Huntsville, Texas, or Huntsville, Alabama, or Amarillo, Texas. We do give the police a heads up because we've done so many in both of those cities, just kind of random, like, just happen to be pedophiles there. Yeah. So the departments, they can't publicly say like, yeah, no, these guys are amazing, I encourage them to do this. But on the down low, they're like, yeah, okay. I'll have an officer ready. And, so that's good coordination there. But then in others, like not very few, like very, very few are just like, don't do this, stop it. But in the end, they still look into it. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of an example where they told us to basically F off and a predator got arrested. Oh, Milwaukee. So we caught a guy named Justin Swift in Milwaukee. And you can look him up, just Justin Swift Predator Poachers. And there's a news article on him. We busted him he admitted to us to molesting 2 kids and to possessing child pornography and to, of course, soliciting a fake minor over, which was us on the other end. And the cops in Milwaukee, they arrested him, but they were like, yeah, we don't really want you to do this. So, yeah.
That's absolutely insane. So have you ever thought to yourself, because obviously, I think you're doing God's work. You're doing incredible things, taking off quite literally the worst human beings on the planet off the streets, hopefully. Have you ever thought to yourself, why aren't the cops doing exactly what we're doing? Why doesn't every precinct have a dedicated unit with burner phones, which wouldn't really be hard, to just be doing exactly what you're doing? Making profiles on Grindr, like, if you bought This Book Is Gay, you can figure that out if you're a child. But like, have you ever thought, like, obviously it would take away your profession or make it a little more difficult, which maybe not because there's so many fucking predators, but have you ever thought to yourself, like, why isn't this a thing in every single police force?
Yeah. So first and foremost, they're definitely, it wouldn't like lessen our workload. I mean, out of the hundreds and hundreds we've done, I think we can count probably on one hand how many were just the FBI happened to be talking to, or the police happen to be talking to. I mean, it's a very low amount where there's crossover. And there's been, I think, there's been 2 where the cops get to the predator first before we do. No, 3, I'm sorry. And basically one of them was this sex offender we're talking to was on parole, and he was messaging our decoy in front of his parole officer. So by the time we get to Washington State, I see he's in jail, and I'm like, oh no, what just happened? And then I'm like, he's back in jail on sex crimes. I wonder what happened. Then a few months later, I got a call from a detective in Anacortes, Washington, saying, "Are you Emily? Are you Emily?" And I'm like, oh yeah, so that's what happened. Because they were trying to find out who this girl was, and then they ended up like tracing it back to the 6'4" guy with a beard.
That had to be a fun phone call.
Yeah. But like, why aren't the cops doing this? Well, the cops want to do this for sure. I mean, I should say 99% of the cops and detectives we talk to are more than receptive to what we do. And it's more of, they don't get enough funding for it. Like, I'm not saying we should raise taxes and pay for this shit. I mean, we should definitely divert some things. But, like in Oregon, for example, there's one detective, I'm not going to say his name, but he's all for what we do, like very encouraging about it. And he wanted to get a unit going for extra training for this type of stuff, and the state denied him. And he also wanted to make me like an agent of the state, not like make me a police officer, but just, kind of deputize me or some type of thing like that. And they were like, it's probably better that they don't do that. So yeah, I mean, they just have their hands tied. It's not they can, but they're not,
So are you protected by any sort of like bounty hunting laws? Are you kind of looked at in a way, like, can they make this a bounty hunting thing where they put these fairly known pedophiles, like obviously the FBI and stuff, they know that these individuals, can there be like because I know bounty hunters are protected by law with certain things when they're going after a bounty. Have you talked to anybody about maybe getting like a special classification for what you guys do? Because you're putting yourselves at risk, big risk, because these people could be psychos. They can carry weapons. Like, your face is fairly well known at this point. So when you show up, there could be the chance that these people know who you are. Like, are you looking to maybe get some protection from the law in that sense for what you guys do?
I mean, I've asked to be like a confidential informant, but that's more for drugs, is what another detective said. But yeah, I mean, besides that, nothing really too much. We just kind of go wing it.
It seems like it's working so far. So
yeah, I hope so.
I want to get a little bit like, question for you is how you're texting these guys. All the time, and obviously acting as young children, and they're telling you their perverse shit. How often do you throw up? Like, honestly, like, how often do you guys like sit there and your stomach turns, or have you kind of gotten the ability to kind of like turn it off because now this is just like your job? Like, what is that like, diving into like having to see all this, because that has to do something to your brain. It has to do something to your soul to just see so many human beings acting this way.
Well, I've definitely blown up on a few of them, like screaming wise. And the only time I cried over the course of this was, sadly, a subscriber's daughter got molested, and the subscriber like invites me over to the house, and she wanted me to go talk to her. I'm no expert or psychologist or whatever, but she just wanted me to do it anyway, so I just kind of asked her. So, and she was autistic too, which made it even sadder. 8 years old. And I asked her, so like, I just asked her like, did your dad do this, blah blah blah, those kind of questions. And my God, I mean, she wasn't coached to say what she said. That's for sure. I mean, she was so sincere when she was just talking about what her dad did to her. And God dang, that definitely made me like tear up for sure. But as for anything the Predator said to us or whatever they're into, no, not really. I mean, the only time and I was probably going to really lose my shit was probably recently we caught this middle school teacher. Granted, he was on administrative leave already because he got arrested for child porn last year, but he's still on the payroll from what I understand. And we caught him again while he's out on bail with infant porn. And we were like tracking his Grindr location, and it tracked to this house where a boy looked to be home alone. So we knocked on the door, and this 10-year-old kid answers, and I'm like, "Hey, was this guy here?" And he's like, "No." And then I go knock back. A few minutes later, I'm like, "No, this is the guy right here." And he's like, no, it's just me and my dad here. I'm like, all right. So he wasn't even home alone. So luckily, but luckily the pedophile ended up being at another house over, which was a huge relief. But I was about to be like, holy shit. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty numb to it. Like, I've never really been offended at words growing up. All the insults would roll off. So, I mean, same shit.
I just think about it because how am I holding my Dave? 34, 35? I don't remember.
You're a very old man.
I'm one of those. And I have 2 daughters. I have a 5 and a 3-year-old. And I just can't think, at 23, I was basically being done being a super senior, trying to figure out my life. And it's like, here you are. Like, a part of me feels for you because you're doing such great stuff, but you've been looking at this shit since 19. And like, I can hope one day that you could just be the boss of this and not have to do all this texting and all this stuff. Like, is there so what is your light at the end of the tunnel here with like what you're trying to do? Are you trying to make this a national, international thing where there's little sects of little like groups of predator poachers around the world? Like, what is the end game for predator poachers here?
We kind of had that at one point, but it kind of fizzled out because I didn't really know what I was doing with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think my goal is just to always, some way, somehow help pedophiles be away from children. So whatever that entails, I don't really know. I kind of take things day by day, don't really plan too far ahead. But yeah, as for wanting to step out of this role, I never want to do that. Like, I don't want to just be behind the scenes, funding it or coordinating it, because this is genuinely the funnest thing in the world. I mean, it's a very good feeling seeing pedophiles in handcuffs, knowing that their life's over. And, because they've done the same thing to how many kids? I mean, they've ended the lives, whether maybe some have killed some, I don't know, but definitely took the souls out of this many kids. I mean, yeah, it's fun as hell to me to do it to them.
We got to figure out a way to get you Joe Biden's grinder. And you can start talking.
But dude, like, it would be his picture texting. But the thing is, it would be like a 23-year-old blonde bitch on the other end doing the
texting. I do gotta ask. You said you started this at 19, and you started this. You didn't think there was that many predators out there.
No.
At this point, like, how much has it really not even distorted, but how much has it shaped the worldview to like how many do you like? How bad do you think it is? Because I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but I watch like horror stuff and like things on YouTube, and I watched something about capping. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's a disgusting act on the internet. But it's just you see more and more dark shit, and it's just like, wow, like it could be pretty bad out there. How has this shaped your worldview going on this job that you're going on now?
Well, I think I've always known that evil exists, and I think what this has taught me is that there's no limitation to evil. Like, if you told me back in the day that, this person did this, that, like, I even still get caught up sometimes thinking, oh, the pedo did this, but I don't think you go this far. No, there's no limitation to them. And I think what people need to understand is just because someone appears to be this doesn't mean they aren't that, There's no limits to evil. And another side thing it exposed just how freaking lazy and stupid Americans are for the most part. And we catch how many pedos on disability or some type of this or that, whatever. It's bullshit. I mean, I think half the people we catch don't even have jobs. So, I mean, that's a whole other problem.
So when you first started wanting to do this, you and the group of friends, or was it a group of friends that wanted to start doing this, or is it a group of people you know?
Oh, yeah, group of friends.
Okay. So when you guys first started this, what was the reception like when you were like family members and friends like saying like, this is what we want to do? And what has the reception grown into now 4 years later as you've, made this into a job?
Well, being that I have Verizon, the reception's always terrible. But well, at first my parents were like, what the fuck are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And then, 50,000 subs on YouTube. Oh my God, Alex, can I get a t-shirt? And just like, okay. But no, I think when we started to actually get results, when this kind of started to turn into a job as well, the family was a lot more receptive to it because, at first it went from you ran around chasing a guy in Walmart to, holy shit, you just drove 17 hours to Nebraska and now somebody's in jail for child porn. So I think, the attitude shifted as we became more serious.
I mean, I can't state enough. It's incredible what you're doing. And now I want to shift focus to, the movie Sound of Freedom. released now almost a month ago, which I think is crazy. It's been that long, and
planned earlier. So
yeah, and they've been,
he's a little.
It's been doing well, but it has a correlation, I think, in a way to what you do, where Tim Ballard in Operation Underground Railroad goes and extracts these kids who are child sex slaves. Now you're knocking down pedophiles, but you're preventing this trade from eventually coming to the people that you're taking down. First off, have you seen the movie?
No, I have some reservations about it because it's kind of funded by Carlos Slim, and Tim Ballard's a Freemason, and I don't trust anything with any Freemason things on it. But the message itself is great, and if the stuff in the movie happened how it did, which I kind of have reservations about as well. The message that sex trafficking is bad is a good message, so that's what I stick to. I don't think I'm going to watch the movie because Jim Caviezel also said that he viewed child pornography to get into his role. So I don't trust anything Hollywood. I know Angel Studios isn't Hollywood, but all those actors have Hollywood agents as their talent people. So I kind of have reservations about people involved in it. But as for what Operation Underground Rescue's deal is, I think, they go on the dark web and they end up coming across traffickers, and same type of thing, it's like, hey, bro, and we kind of do a similar thing. Like, I don't meet anybody as a trafficker, but we've definitely posed as child porn traders on Instagram where it can't be exchanged, and basically said, hey, bro, let's go to Telegram. Then we never go to Telegram, but we find out that they trade child porn, and then we go bust them wherever they are. And and I think a lot of people didn't know how deep it goes. And I think similar to kind of what we do, it exposes that, holy shit, people will go this far to be evil.
Yep.
So I know you said you just don't trust Tim Ballard, but he announced that he is starting a fund called the Spear Fund, where he would essentially be he's stepping away from Nazarene Fund and Underground Railroad, and he's going to be the person that will collect money through the Spear Fund and send it out to other organizations doing something similar. If they were to approach you guys and say, hey, we want to give you X amount of money to help you towards what you do, would you take that money?
Would I take that money? I don't see why I wouldn't. I don't see why I wouldn't take the money, but I don't know. Maybe I'll be like, yes, I will take the money or something, But like, no, I mean, if that becomes a thing and he offers me money somehow, even after I trashed him for being a Freemason and for being into some weird shit, I'd of course take it.
So I want to jump real quick just back to Sound of Freedom, because even though, me and Dave haven't seen it yet, I do want to go see it. I think that, I understand in my sense that this definitely isn't how it exactly went down, right? It was a production. They're going to fabricate things. And Tim Ballard has even gone on interviews and said, like, this is not exactly how it's done. It's a very story, but it's obviously dramatized. But the response from the leftist media has, I think, been one of the more telling things about the fact that makes me want to go see it even more, right? Because they're saying they're calling this, it's a QAnon movie. And that's just because Jim Caviezel has said some things that he agrees with some things from Q. And me and David have talked about Q on here. And for a lot of their theories, they start off with a premise that is actually pretty good. And then they just go fucking crazy because QAnon is crazy. But I mean, what do you think about the response from the leftist media and what they've been saying? Does that make you kind of like, maybe I will see it one day because these assholes are wrong about everything?
Yeah. So the thing with that, with the leftists hating it, they hate it for the complete wrong reasons. I mean, I have my reservations because Jim Caviezel's on the Jordan Peterson interview saying he watched child pornography to get into meth.
That is weird.
I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And, I don't trust anything, Freemason, but the fact that, I saw a clip on Twitter today of a leftist showing a clip of Tim Ballard saying that, oh my God, Tim Ballard watched thousands of hours of child pornography. But I was thinking to myself, okay, but Tim Ballard is actually an agent who would identify. So, I mean, that's stupid. But it's just, it's crazy. Like, they're calling trafficking a conspiracy theory while knocking Tim for watching CP as an agent, which, they're supposed
to. Very different, right?
It is different. And I think the funniest thing about the Sound of Freedom is that it really exposed the left for just completely defending child trafficking. Like, it's really at a point now where, I mean, if you literally just say save the children, the left will find a way to make it weird that you said that.
Yeah, have you gotten any responses like that, like at all for any of the stuff you do? Have you gotten any of that, like, oh, you really shouldn't be out there doing this, or it's not as bad as you're making it out to be, or
Your
something
videos
like
are all dramatized. That's a paid actor. Like bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the paid actor thing, but that wasn't really a political thing. That's just people. It's a paid actor. But yeah, I mean, as for oh man, I'm trying to think. As for some of the stuff, like where it comes to, oh, these people have rights, this, that, we haven't really had too much of that, to be honest.
Good.
But yeah, not too much of that, to be honest. But we've had a few people say like, oh, this should only be left to the cops, and those people saying that have obviously been like left of center. So it's definitely made some leftists very pro police, but that's which is funny.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
And you know, it's like you mentioned that exposed the left a lot. The way I think about it, because I consider myself on the right, it exposed the Republicans in Congress that aren't waving the flag saying, you know, at least know this message. Like, I feel like the ones that are saying, go see this movie, at least want more people to see that this is really going on. Like, this is a thing. Sex trafficking is real. And the numbers they put out about the fact that this is modern day slavery and things like that, like that's all legit. And to me, it's more telling about the uniparty in Congress that has not said a fucking word about it. Like the Republicans, like your Mitch McConnells and your guys like that, like they're all complicit. And I think there's you look at it, there's a major reason why Epstein Island's client list has not come out yet. And I think there's a lot of career politicians that may be on that list. I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying they're not, but I think there's a possibility.
Well, of course they're on the list, but we also got to think Trump's been in office for 4 years and didn't do anything to expose the list. So, it's kind of the thing. You can still not being a politician doesn't mean you're automatically an outsider. We're not politicians and we're also outsiders. Yep. But Trump's been an insider. I mean, he's donated to the Clinton campaign. He's donated to all these people. He's also an insider. He just wasn't a politician for the longest time. Mm-hmm. So I think people need to, get off their high horse just because it's Trump and understand that he had 4 years to go expose the Epstein client list. And I'm not saying, Ron DeSantis is going to come in and expose the Epstein client list.
Mm-hmm. No, he's not going to either.
No,
none of them are. None of them are. Like Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy's not going to do that. You don't get to 500. No. You don't get to $500 million without knowing some people, right? Like with Vivek, right. All these people that are wealthy, you obviously rub elbows with everyone that's there. So yeah, exactly. I see what you're saying completely, Alex.
Yeah, and I mean, very few politicians will go talk about how bad trafficking is or just ring the alarms about it. But yeah, I mean, the Republicans are the same way as Democrats. I think the Republicans could be even gayer. I mean, you saw Madison Cawthorn saying that, oh, the Republicans have cocaine-fueled orgies. Then next thing you know, a tape leaks of him sodomizing another guy.
And he's gone. And he's like now persona non grata, which is like, if you're trying to cover this up, is that the worst thing that you want to do? Like as the Republicans, like that's always like the admission of guilt, right? When you kind of squash the person trying to expose you, like the best way to do it, right, is to laugh them off. Like if you're trying to cover it up, it's just like, oh, Madison, you silly nilly, you lost your election. Ronna McDaniel didn't set that up. Like, but it's like for them to just sit there and it's like, no one will talk to him again. He's gone forever. And it's like, all right, you guys are having gay cocaine orgies in Congress. Like, you know what, guys? Fight the good fight. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like
the biggest thing they exposed Madison Cawthorn was because they exposed him for having a working leg.
Yeah, that was his exposure. And there are, like you said, there are a few out there. I feel like most of them are your border representatives, right? Your representatives that are like you're down on like the southern border is some that actually have to go and answer to constituents every once in a while where, things like that are really going on from the border. We know a lot of the sex slavery and then like pedophiles obviously go down there and prey on these kids. That's a definite thing that occurs. So, I mean, there's a few, there's some decent ones. I feel like Matt Gaetz has been okay on a lot of things. He's outspoken.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't really take lobbyist money because that's been his calling card that he doesn't do it. So I hope we never find out that he does. But there's a few that have been really good. Have you been in contact with any of these members of Congress about what you do and, possibly getting not funding, but getting some backing from a larger group of people, but more influential people?
Yeah, so the only congressman I've had contact with has been Rep. Tony Gonzalez in Texas 23. And the reason for that being is we caught a person in his district in Hondo, Texas, and he ended up like sharing the video and ensuring that he was arrested and stuff like that. And the cops, were going to arrest him anyway, but like, Tony followed up on it and just made sure that it kind of happened. So, I mean, he's been terrible on other issues, and he votes to spend our money to, Ukraine and child. I mean, I guess he's kind of, he keeps it even. He wants to stop pedophilia in Texas 23, but he wants to also promote it by sending our money to Ukraine. So, he has to keep it fair, which I understand. But yeah, that's the only congressperson. And I've also been in contact with a few state reps, within the Texas legislature. And we're trying to get a law amended currently that's basically to further define what sexually explicit material is. So when a predator sends a penis picture, they instantly get arrested rather than some gray area. Believe it or not, there is a gray area with that right now.
Crazy.
Yep.
I do have to ask, because you also mentioned Instagram along with Grindr that you use. I don't know how many social media sites you use. I can imagine you can use basically any of them. But do you ever try to contact those in the social media sites? I know this has happened before and they really don't do much most of the time. But have you ever tried to get them to be like, hey, I have found like this many people trying to get to talk to kids on your site. Could you try to crack down on this a little bit?
We haven't reached out to Instagram, but we've made a compilation on Twitter, basically, of predators that have said they received child pornography on Twitter. Okay. And from what it seems like, Elon Musk has been pretty good about that stuff. I mean, he's definitely censored way too many people and completely lied about the Fauci files and all this other shit. But I mean, he's been good on that type of stuff. I mean, we haven't caught a predator off Twitter. It's been a very long time since he's been there. So
awesome.
That's definitely been good. But then as for Instagram, what they did recently, they did a purge. They did a purge of a lot of these pedophile accounts, but the problem is they didn't report any of it to law enforcement, and now the pedos all just stopped and went to Telegram. Yeah. So with Instagram, I kind of don't want to ring the alarm about that, because a lot of these pedos on Instagram use their real name. They say exactly where they're from. They make themselves sitting ducks.
Yep.
And if they go on Telegram, then we could be liable for some stuff like that too, because we don't want to get sent what they have on their phone. But on Instagram, we don't get sent that stuff, and if they try to send it, it gets instantly blocked. So I kind of like that Instagram kind of kept them just out there.
And it's not surprising that Instagram, though, would do a purge like that, because a lot of them are run by Marxists. And if you know anything about Marxist history, they're all about boy love. There's NAMBLA. There's out and out Marxists. President of NAMBLA, the North American man boy lovers. That's a real thing. Go look it up, everybody. If you don't know, it's been around for a while now and it's disgusting. But, they tried the sexualization in Hungary. They're doing it now in all of our schools where, you talk to them and the line that they try to make it innocuous, but no, kids are just tiny adults. That doesn't mean that they want kids to have like adult rights to like own things. That means they want to have sex with your kids. Like, that's really all it means. Love is love quite literally means that pedophiles are even too, because love is love. So all these innocuous things that they try to just make like, oh, it's just this. I mean, I don't want to bring too much in deep in that, but this is leftism. This is Marxism. And you're doing, maybe these people that you're catching aren't like devout Marxists, but the people trying to defend them certainly are. The people trying to like make laws so we can call them maps instead of pedophiles. Those are your leftists. I think was it one of the states, New Hampshire or Vermont? One of them signed it into law that you can't call them pedophiles. They're referred to as minorly attracted persons, maps. Which I refuse to actually, look that up. It's one of those, one state made it so it's not pedophile anymore legally. It's minorly attracted person. Now, have you, do you like, I'd imagine like places like 4chan or Reddit are kind of like gold mines for you guys, because there's got to be like pages for like maps, because as they're trying to code it. Have you come across anything like that?
We've had our hands so tied that we have not been on. Well, I've been on Reddit once, Decoy, and 4chan never. But starting in 2022, that's when we started to have predators refer to themselves as maps. And we're talking to a couple right now, actually. And I mean like a man and a woman, a couple, like a husband and wife, who refer to themselves as minor attracted persons to this, who they think is an 11-year-old girl. So it's definitely started to pop up more recently. And there's pages on Instagram that basically say MAP for AAM, which is minor attracted person for adult attracted minor. And we caught a predator recently in New York named Darren Taylor. And his Telegram name was literally MAP for AAM, and he had thousands of images of toddlers on his phone, is what he told us. And yeah, no, they are trying to normalize it. I understand, like, if you look at our videos, we're catching like Billy Bob and like the Hicks or in the sticks, but I get we catch more people that vote Republican, but the people defending it and trying to institutionalize this are absolutely leftists.
Now, last thing before I want to jump into the last part, how many women do you catch? Or is it all men? Or are there women that you actually catch? Like, what is... if you want to give any sort of like percentage or whatever, like that you find that it's actually women, because we hear the stories of teachers having sex with middle schoolers and high schoolers. And, as you're growing up as a dude, you're like, well, hell yeah, hot teacher. And now as you're an adult, you kind of look at it and you're just like, she might still be a hot teacher, but she's fucking creepy. Like, why are you having sex with a 14-year-old? Like, how often do you catch women in these roles?
Well, we've had one woman try to come meet us in 2020, and we were potato and not as organized as we are now. So, oh my gosh, she got to the Sting House before we got there and ended up driving off. But the other times we've caught women have been like a couple setting. So, the man's taking their wife and the wife's in on it. It's not like the wife had no idea. The wife's in on it with them. Yeah. And, yeah, that's the only times. But we've had women hit us up. But the thing with the woman is they're so careful. Like, like the men, they ask for nudes or whatever. And we can say, oh, I don't feel comfortable sending that. But they're so horny and stupid that they're like, all right, that's fine. I'll still think you're real or whatever. But the women are like, no, send me a nude or I will block you right now. And, we can't send them nudes.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Do you have any females that you work with, or is it all guys right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, the decoys, we do video call these predators, and the females do that.
Again, you guys, I can't say enough. You guys do ridiculously good work for what we're doing. So I want to jump into this. If someone's listening to this right now and their stomach is turning, but their fist is clenching, they want to do something. What more can people do to combat this pedophilia, and what can they do in order to help you and support you guys?
Well, to combat pedophilia, I think a lot of it, you got to start looking at yourself. Like if you have kids, maybe it's not the best idea to let them on, these platforms when they're like 8 years old.
Social media.
Like, of course we can expect, yes, a man should never be hitting up a little kid, but it does take two to be in that situation in the first place. And, obviously there's times where it can't be prevented, where the predator is just too much of a predator and they just do it no matter what happens. But there are preventative measures. I mean, I think handing kids a football instead of a phone will do wonders for them. It'll knock two birds out one stone. I really think that's the best way, because you're not going to stop pedophiles from being pedophiles. No. But, we can always not go on the phones. And I think handing a girl, like, I don't know, Barbies or whatever, rather than a phone, would do wonders for her as well. Like, just do real things, do real life stuff. And yeah, there are pedo coaches, pedos everywhere, but you're not going to be hit up by any online ones. And that's a guarantee you won't, you know what I mean? So I think that's probably the best way, what we can do immediately. And as for supporting us, if you're watching, we have a Rumble channel. It's rumble.com, Predator Poachers. It's completely free to make a Rumble account. Just follow us on there.
All right. So also, I just lost my question. Dave, do you have anything? I lost my question.
Well, I could not find the article, unfortunately. I found a PolitiFact thing that was just a lot of jargon. I didn't have the time nor the want to read through all of that. But like you said, keeping kids off of social media in the first place. Like, I know I referenced capping before, but that is the act of being on social media, and there might be someone who might be in like the tween age or a little bit older that might be on a live stream, just doing whatever. And then the person usually talks them into doing some type of act that they can't have go out there. They record it, blackmail them, and then keep them in their clutches forever, how long they wanted to. And I don't know how much it's still going on, but I know it was a thing back in the 2000s at least. But that's the whole thing, is that like you said, if you keep kids off of social media, it's going to at least bring it down to on the fact that people can't really get to them as easily as they can right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, social media isn't funner than playing football, or it's not funner than this or that. And I think you just got to get them into real life stuff before you get them into social media, because if you just take their phone away when they're like 11 or something and they've been on it for 3 years, it's not going to work that way.
Yeah.
You have to groom them into playing sports and groom them into being in the real world, in reality. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't groom them into doing something fulfilling and real, then they're going to be groomed by some idiot not idiot's too nice. They're going to be groomed by some demon into a world of hurt,
Positive grooming. There is a such thing as positive grooming.
Absolutely.
I remembered my question. So as you've been dealing with the underworld of human society with pedophiles for the last 4 years, do you think there is any rehabilitation for these people?
No, absolutely not. No, hell no. They are the sickest, evil pieces of shit you'll ever come across. I mean, my gosh, the middle school teacher we caught with infant porn like a few days ago, he was out on bond for child porn, and he gets a new phone and he gets back on Telegram and does the same shit he was doing. I mean, no, there's no stopping. They won't ever.
Do you think
stop.
they have a disease and that it's something that they need to do you think it's a sickness or like an actual like physical sickness, like having some people have autism, some people have that, like actually a physical sickness? Or is it just like, I don't know, like what would you diagnose it as? Is it something where they should be not only incarcerated, but treated for this? Like what would you say the solution would be ultimately with pedophiles?
Oh, they just got to throw them in prison. And if they're born a pedo, which I think you can be. I mean, I was born attracted to people my age or older or whatever. And, I'm attracted to adults now. And no amount of therapy is going to make me into a sodomite. No amount of therapy is going to make me want butt sex with guys. Yeah. So it's the same way with the pedos. If they want to have sex with little kids, I'm sorry that they're like that, whether something happened to them or whether they were born that way. I don't really care to understand. Just throw their ass in prison. I'm sorry. It just has to be that way. Of course, is that the perfect solution? No, but what's a better solution than that? There isn't one. So we got to do the best.
Not right now. Definitely get them off first and then talk about it later. So, Alex, this was fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So once again, he's Alex Rosen, independent journalist and one of the members of the Predator Poachers. Go on their Rumble, go search Predator Poachers. You'll find them on there. So if people want to donate directly, is there a way to donate directly to you besides subscribing? If they just want to give you a lump of money, can they do that?
Yeah, they can, but if everybody listening to this just gets on Rumble for free, and if you're watching on Rumble and you want to do that, then hit me up and we'll do it. But right now, just get on Rumble for free. That's step one. All
right. So we really appreciate you coming on, Dave. Do you have any last words before we jump out?
No, this is great. It's always good learning more, even though it's about something that's absolutely terrible. But it's a good thing learning more about stopping it, because it's an awful deed, but you're doing the good deed and stopping whatever is happening. So it's always good to have an informative thing like this.
Yes, 100%. Like I said, I think you guys are doing God's work. And a little bit of time, I'd love to have you back on and give us an update about how things are going, and any way that we can help. I'm putting this out there on the airwaves. Any way we can help you guys, any way we can help, Predator Poachers, we would love to. So that we appreciate it again, brother.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, everyone, if you like what you heard, if we're disgusted by what you heard, that's the wrong line again. I'm going to put my foot in my mouth all fucking show. If you listen to this show, found it informative, and are sickened as I am, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Go spread this word of mouth. Spread what Alex does, word of mouth as well. And we will be back next week for another show. Have a good one, everybody.